My fiancée confessed that her ex had proposed to her and that she had said yes. So I spilled everything to her domineering mother. Then, I canceled the wedding, returned the ring, and packed up her things. A week later, she showed up at my house screaming, "My name is Kevin Anderson. I am a 35-year-old commercial electrician who thought he had found the love of his life in Haley Bennett. We had been together for 3 years, engaged for 6 months, and I was foolish enough to believe that meant something." Haley worked as a marketing coordinator at a downtown Denver agency, the kind of place where everyone dressed beyond their means and spent more time gossiping than working. She was beautiful in that natural way that made other men stare at her and made me feel lucky. Too lucky, as it turned out. The first warning sign should have been when she started talking again about Connor Reed, her college boyfriend, the one who had dumped her 5 years earlier to go find himself in Europe with his family's money. Suddenly, his name was popping up in conversations like a bad song on repeat. "Connor sent me a message today," she would say while scrolling through her phone screen during dinner. "He is back from his trip. He wants us to get together to catch up." I told her I did not like her talking to him again. She smiled and said, "Do not be jealous. It is nothing. We are just friends." Famous last words, right? The late arrivals started a week later. "Working dinner," she would say, grabbing her purse and kissing me on the cheek. "Do not wait up for me." But she would come home smelling of an overpriced cologne that was definitely not mine, and her makeup looked freshly touched up. I am not a suspicious guy by nature. I fix electrical problems for a living. I rely on facts, on things that work or do not work. But even I could see that the circuits of our relationship were burning out. My best friend Dylan had warned me. "Man, she is acting weird," he told me over a beer at Clancy's bar. "Leah saw her at that fancy downtown restaurant last Tuesday. She was not alone, and it was not you." "It was probably a work thing," I replied. But the words tasted like a lie even before they left my mouth. A work thing, my foot. The guy was holding her hand across the table. I should have confronted her right then. I should have demanded answers. Instead, I did what guys like me do. I hoped I was wrong and kept quiet. The night everything changed. Haley came home around 10 in the evening, glowing, not looking tired like someone returning from work, but with the excitement in her eyes of someone who just heard life-changing news. She was almost skipping as she hung up her coat. Her phone had been vibrating nonstop all evening. I could hear it from the kitchen where I was finishing the dishes. "Good day?" I asked, trying to keep a casual tone. She turned to me with this smile that should have been for me, but somehow was not. It was the kind of smile you get when you are dying to share a secret, when something amazing has happened and you cannot contain it. "Actually, yes, really good." I waited for the rest, but she just stood there, phone in hand, beaming. The silence stretched between us until I could not take it anymore. "What happened?" She looked at me as if she were sharing great news and said, "My ex proposed to me." I said yes. The dish I was holding, one of the nice plates from the set her mother had given us, slipped from my hands and shattered on the kitchen floor. The sound echoed in the sudden silence that followed her words. I just stood there staring at her, waiting for the punchline, waiting for her to laugh and say it was a joke, that she was talking about a television show or a story she had heard. There was none. "What did you just say?" "Connor proposed to me, and I said yes." She repeated it as if I had not heard her the first time, as if she were telling me she got a promotion or found a good parking spot. At that moment, standing in my kitchen, surrounded by broken ceramics, I understood everything. I was not her future. I was her plan B, the safe choice she had settled for while waiting for something better to come along. She did not just disrespect me. She completely replaced me. "You are not thinking clearly." The words came out softer than I intended. "We are engaged, Haley. We are getting married in 4 months. She had the audacity to look confused, as if I were the one being unreasonable. "I know, but what? But you feel more for him? But you never really wanted to marry me? But I was just the backup plan while you waited for someone else to come back." "It is not like that, Kevin. You do not understand." "Then explain it to me. Explain to me how the woman I was engaged to saying yes to another man's marriage proposal makes any sense." She opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again like someone struggling to find the right words. "It just happened. We were talking, and he said he made a mistake leaving me, and when he proposed, you said yes." "Yeah, you mentioned that part." The broken plate crunched under my feet as I stepped forward. Haley took a step back, and for the first time since she got home, she looked unsure. I need time to think, she finally said. Time to think about what? You already made your choice. I did not mean it. Oh yes, you did. You meant every word. I could see she was backpedaling now, trying to find a way to take back what she had said. But some things cannot be erased. Some betrayals cannot be justified. Kevin, please, let me explain. Explain what? That you had been involved in inappropriate interactions with him? That every late night and work dinner was actually an opportunity to reconnect with someone else? That our entire relationship was just a lie? She started crying, but they were the wrong tears. Not the tears of someone who made a terrible mistake, but the tears of someone who got caught. I did not yell. I did not beg. I did not throw anything or punch a wall like guys do in movies. I simply walked to the living room. I sat on our couch and started making a mental list of everything that needed to be canceled. The reception venue had to be canceled. The caterer, the florist, the disc jockey, the string quartet Haley had insisted we have for the ceremony. My family had to be called. Her family had to be called. The invitations that had been sent out last week were going to need some kind of explanation. Haley followed me, still crying, still talking, but her words sounded like background noise. Something about how she did not mean it, how she was lost, how we could get through this. But saying yes to another man's marriage proposal is not confusion, it is clarity. I took out my phone and started scrolling through my contacts. First the wedding planner, then the reception venue. It was late, but I could leave messages to start the process of dismantling the future we had planned together. What are you doing? Haley asked, panic starting to creep into her voice. I am cleaning up the mess you just made. I did not sleep all night. While Haley cried herself to sleep in our bedroom, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and phone, methodically destroying our wedding plans. The venue coordinator's voicemail was first. Hello, this is Kevin Anderson. I need to cancel our reservation for the 15th of March wedding. Yes, I understand there are penalties. I will call you tomorrow to discuss the details. The caterer followed, then the florist, then the string quartet Haley had insisted we have for the ceremony. Every call felt like ripping the stitches out of a wound that had not healed yet. By dawn, I had a notebook full of phone numbers to call and a rough estimate of what it was going to cost me. It turned out heartbreak had a price, and it was about $12,000 in non-refundable deposits. Haley emerged from the bedroom around 7 in the morning, looking like she had been hit by a truck. Her makeup was smeared, her hair a mess, and her eyes were red and puffy. Kevin, we need to talk. No need. I did not look up from my computer. We needed to talk before you accepted another man's marriage proposal. This is ancient history. She sat across from me, reaching for my hand. I pulled it away. I made a mistake, she said. A huge and terrible mistake. But we can fix this. How exactly do you fix saying yes to marrying someone else? I will call Connor. I will tell him I changed my mind. And then, we pretend it never happened. We go back to planning our wedding as if you did not just tell me you would rather marry your ex-boyfriend. She stayed silent for a long time. I do not know, but we can figure it out. I finally looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw a stranger. The woman I had planned to marry, the woman I had bought a house with, the woman I had pictured growing old with. She was no longer there. In her place was someone who thought love was a multiple-choice question. There is nothing to figure out, Haley. You made your choice. I choose you, she said desperately. I choose us. No, you chose him. Everything else is just damage control. I stood up, closing the laptop. I'm going to take a shower and go to work. When I get home tonight, I want you gone. Kevin, please. Gone, Haley. Take what you need for now. I will pack the rest of your things this weekend. The shower was the first place I was alone since the night before. And that is where it finally hit me, not just the anger or the betrayal, but the total absurdity of it all. I started to laugh, really laugh, until the laughter turned into something completely different. When I got out, Haley was gone. She had left a note on the kitchen counter. I am sorry. I love you. Please do not give up on us. I crumpled it up and threw it in the trash. Work was a blessing that day. There is nothing like rewiring a commercial building to forget that your personal life is falling apart. My crew knew something was wrong. I am not exactly known for having a poker face, but they had the good sense not to ask questions. It was around noon when Dylan arrived at the job site with coffee and sandwiches. I heard you might need this, he told me, handing me a cup. Who told you? Haley called Leah this morning, crying. Something about the wedding being canceled. I took a long sip of coffee and told him everything. The late nights, the suspicious behavior, the proposal, the whole mess. Dylan listened without interrupting, which is one of the reasons we have been friends since high school. So, what is the plan? He asked when I finished. The plan? Come on, Kevin. We are talking about Haley, the woman who made a scene when the restaurant got her order wrong. You think she is just going to accept this and move on? He had a point. Haley did not handle rejection well under the best of circumstances. Getting kicked out by the man she was engaged to after essentially choosing another man was not going to go unnoticed. I do not care what she does, I replied. It is not my problem anymore. It is going to become your problem when she shows up at your door with a tearjerker story about how she made a terrible mistake and you are the love of her life. So, I will tell her the same thing I told her this morning. She made her choice. Dylan shook his head. You underestimate her, man. Haley is not the type to leave quietly. He was right, of course. I just had not realized how right he was until that very evening. I came home to find the front door unlocked and Haley's sedan in the driveway. She was in the living room, surrounded by photo albums and boxes of tissues, looking like she was staging some sort of intervention with herself. I told you to be gone, I said. I know, but I could not leave things like this. Look, she held up a picture from our first vacation together. Do you remember this? Do you remember how happy we were? I remember a lot of things, Haley, including last night. She put the picture down and stood up. I called Connor. Good for you. I told him I could not marry him. I told him I was already engaged to the man I love. I stared at her. And he was upset, obviously. But he understood. He said he had been selfish trying to win me back when I had already moved on. Moved on? You said yes to his proposal. I was confused. I got carried away by the moment, by the history we had together. But you are my future, Kevin. You are the one I want to marry. It was a good speech, sincere even. If she had delivered it 12 hours earlier, it might have even worked. I already canceled the wedding, I said. Her face went pale. What? The venue, the caterer, the flowers, all of it. I spent the morning cleaning up your mess. You cannot just. We can reschedule. We can. We cannot do anything, Haley. There is no more us. She started crying again, but this time it was different. Tears of anger, tears of despair, the kind of tears that fall when someone realizes they have lost something they cannot get back. I made a mistake, she said. A stupid mistake, and you are throwing 3 years away. You did not make a mistake. You made a choice, and now I am making mine. I walked to the hall closet and pulled out 2 suitcases. Pack what you need for the next few days. I will put the rest of your things in boxes this weekend. Where am I supposed to go? I do not know. To your mother's, to Connor's, to a hotel. I really do not care right now. She looked at me as if I were a stranger. And maybe I was. Maybe the Kevin she had known was the kind of guy who would have begged her to stay, who would have fought for a relationship that was already over. But that Kevin died the night before, somewhere between the broken plate and the realization that he had been living a lie. Fine, she finally said. But this is not over. Yes, it is. She packed quickly, throwing her clothes in without any organization. I stayed in the kitchen, listening to her move around upstairs, opening and closing drawers with more force than necessary. When she came back down, she stopped by the door. I will come back for the rest of my things this weekend. I will leave them on the porch. Kevin. Goodbye, Haley. She left without another word, and for the first time in months, my house felt peaceful. I was naive enough to think that would be the end of it. I should have known Haley would not leave quietly. I should have remembered what kind of person she was. Someone who had to win every argument, who could not let sleeping dogs lie, who treated every conflict like a war that had to be fought to the bitter end. But I did not expect her to bring reinforcements. Saturday morning, I was in the garage packing Haley's things when I heard a car door slam in the driveway. Through the window, I saw a silver Mercedes that I recognized immediately. My stomach tied in knots. Vivian Bennett, Haley's mother, was a force of nature in the worst sense of the word. She was the kind of woman who asked to speak to the manager as a hobby, who treated service workers as if they were beneath her, and who had never met a problem she could not solve by throwing money at it or bullying people into submission. She was also the kind of mother who thought her daughter could do no wrong, regardless of the evidence suggesting otherwise. I opened the garage door to find her marching up my driveway like a general leading a charge. She was wearing what I had come to recognize as her serious business attire, a tailored black suit that probably cost more than my mortgage payment. "Kevin," she said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "We need to talk." "Mrs. Bennett, I am a little busy right now." "Yes, I can see that." She looked at the boxes stacked in the garage with obvious disapproval. "You are throwing 3 years away like garbage." "I am not throwing anything away. I am returning Haley's belongings." "Do not be ridiculous. This whole situation is completely blown out of proportion. Haley made a little mistake, and you are acting like she committed something unforgivable." "A little mistake." That was what she called it. "Mrs. Bennett, with all due respect, your daughter accepted another man's marriage proposal while she was engaged to me. That is not a little mistake. That is a serious betrayal." She waved her hand dismissively. "Men propose to women all the time. It does not mean anything unless you go through with it." She said yes. She was being polite. I stared at her, wondering if she actually believed what she was saying or if she was just that determined to defend her daughter. Being polite would have been saying thank you, but I am already engaged. Saying yes is a whole other thing. Vivian stepped closer, and I could smell her expensive perfume mixed with the faint scent of cigarettes she thought she had masked with mints. "Let me tell you something, Kevin. My daughter is a catch. She is beautiful, she is smart, she comes from a good family. She could have any man she wants. Then she should go want someone else. But she wants you, you stubborn idiot. She has been crying for 3 straight days because you refuse to listen to reason. I have heard enough." I listened to her tell me she accepted another man's proposal. I listened to her try to explain why that was somehow okay. What I will not do is listen to you tell me I should be grateful for the privilege of being disrespected. Vivian's face was turning red, which usually meant she was about to switch from bullying to all-out war. "You are making the biggest mistake of your life," she said. "Haley is the best thing that ever happened to you, and you are too proud to see it." "Maybe, but it is my mistake to make." Really, because I had been thinking about this situation and I wondered what kind of man gives up without fighting for the woman he loves. The attack I was expecting. The kind of man who has enough self-respect not to beg someone to choose him over someone else. Self-respect. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You are an electrician, Kevin. You work with your hands for a living. You live in a modest house in a modest neighborhood, and you drive a pickup truck that has seen better days. My daughter." She overlooked all of that because she saw something in you that, frankly, I never saw. The words hit their mark exactly as she intended. That was Vivian's specialty, finding the weak spots in people's armor and pressing until she hit bone. And now, she is willing to overlook your little tantrum too, because that is the kind of generous and forgiving person she is. But my patience is not as vast as hers. What is that supposed to mean? She smiled, and it was the kind of smile that made me understand why Haley turned out the way she did. "It means that if you do not come to your senses and fix this mess, I will make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you really are. The kind who abandons the woman he claims to love the second things get difficult." "Go ahead," I said. "Tell whatever you want to whoever you want. I really do not care anymore what people think." But even as I said it, I knew she had found her target. Vivian Bennett was well-connected, and in ways that mattered in a town like this. She sat on charity boards, was a member of the country club, and had lunch with the wives of city councilmen and corporate executives. If she wanted to make my life difficult, she had the tools to do it. "Think about it," she said, turning to leave. "Think about whether your pride is worth losing everything you have worked for." She was halfway to her car when she turned back. "Oh, and Kevin, Haley will be coming by tomorrow to pick up the rest of her things. I suggest you be here to help her. It is the least you can do after putting her through this ordeal." She drove off, leaving me standing in my garage surrounded by boxes, with the growing conviction that this was far from over. I called Dylan as soon as she was out of sight. "Vivian Bennett just threatened me." I blurted out without preamble. "Threatened you how?" I told him about the conversation, her veiled warnings about making my life difficult. "She is bluffing," Dylan said, but he did not sound convinced. "Is she? You know she is well connected. A word to the right people, and I could lose contracts, referrals, work. So what are you going to do?" "I do not know, but I am not taking Haley back just because her mother threatened me." "Good, because if you do, you will never hear the end of it from me." That night, I could not sleep. I kept thinking about Vivian's words, the way she had smiled as she delivered her ultimatum. Haley had learned her manipulation tactics from a master, and now I found myself caught in the crossfire of a family that did not know how to lose gracefully. Sunday morning brought Haley and reinforcements, not just Vivian this time, but Haley's sister, Madison, and her best friend, Taylor. A whole delegation of women who had apparently decided I was the problem to be solved. I watched through my living room window as they got out of 2 cars and gathered in my driveway like they were planning a siege. Haley looked terrible, pale and drawn, like she had not eaten or slept. A part of me felt bad for her, but a bigger part remembered why we were in this mess in the first place. The doorbell rang, followed immediately by aggressive knocking. "Kevin, open the door," Haley called out. "I know you are in there." I could have ignored them. I could have stayed inside until they gave up and left. But that would only delay the inevitable. And I was tired of feeling like a prisoner in my own home. I opened the door to find all 4 women standing on my porch like some sort of intervention squad. "We need to talk," Haley said. "All of you. We are here for moral support," Madison said. She was 2 years younger than Haley, but somehow seemed older, more sensible. Under normal circumstances, I liked Madison. These were not normal circumstances. Moral support. For what? "To fix this mess," Taylor said. She had never liked me. She always thought Haley was settling by dating a blue-collar worker. The feeling was mutual. There is nothing to fix. Haley made her choice. "I made a mistake," Haley said, stepping forward. "How many times do I have to say it? It is not about how many times you say it. It is about the fact that you said yes to another man's marriage proposal. That is not something you can undo with an apology." Vivian pushed her way past the others. "Can we come in? This is not really a conversation the neighbors need to hear." I stepped aside, mostly because I knew she would keep making a scene on my porch until I did. They filed into my living room like they owned the place. Which, given Vivian's attitude, was probably what she thought. "All right," Vivian said, settling into my armchair like she was holding court. "Let us discuss this situation like adults." "There is nothing to discuss." "Of course there is," Madison said. "Haley made a mistake, yes, but people make mistakes all the time. That is what forgiveness is for. Some mistakes are bigger than others, and some people are more understanding than others," Taylor added with a pointed look in my direction. I was starting to understand why Haley thought she could get away with so much. She had grown up surrounded by people who made excuses for her behavior, who treated her like she was too delicate or too special to be held accountable for her actions. "Let me ask you something," I said, looking directly at Haley. "If the situation were reversed, if I had accepted another woman's marriage proposal while we were engaged, would you be this understanding?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. "Would you be sitting there telling me it was just a mistake, that I was just being polite, that we could get past it?" "It is different," she finally said. "How?" Because you would not do something like that." "You are right. I would not, because I understand what it means. It means you chose someone. It means you are committing. It means you do not entertain marriage proposals from other people." "She knows that now." Vivian said she learned her lesson. "Her lesson? What lesson?" "Do not get caught." The room went quiet. Haley started crying again, but this time I felt nothing. No sympathy, no urge to comfort her, no desire to fix things. Just exhaustion. "I think you should all leave," I said. "Kevin, please," Haley said through her tears. "I love you. I want to marry you. Is not that enough?" "No," I replied, "it is not enough." And for the first time since this whole mess started, I really meant it. After the intervention squad left, I decided I needed to know more about Connor Reed. Not because I was jealous, that was ancient history, but because I was curious about the kind of guy who would propose to the woman someone else was engaged to. It did not take much digging. Connor Reed had the kind of online presence that screamed, "Look at me." A LinkedIn profile full of buzzwords, an Instagram account documenting his entrepreneur lifestyle, a Facebook page that looked like an explosion at a motivational poster factory. He was everything I was not, a trust fund kid turned tech startup founder. Nothing but expensive suits, networking events, and posts about disrupting industries. The kind of guy who used words like synergy in everyday conversation and thought wearing a Rolex made him interesting. But the more I scrolled through his social media, the more I noticed something else. Comments from a woman named Carolyn Reed. His mother, judging by the shared last name and family photos. And Carolyn Reed had opinions about her son's life choices. Strong opinions. So proud of my successful son, she had commented on a photo of Connor at a business conference. I hope he finds a nice girl who appreciates what a catch he is. Connor needs to settle down with someone from a good family, she wrote under a picture of him at a charity gala. Someone who understands what it means to be a Reed. The more I read, the clearer it became. Carolyn Reed was exactly like Vivian Bennett, a controlling mother who thought her child could do no wrong. Except Carolyn seemed to have very specific ideas about who was worthy of her precious son. I found her personal Facebook page and hit the jackpot. Carolyn Reed did not just have strong opinions. She was a true social media warrior who documented every thought that crossed her mind. And lately, she had been posting a lot about inappropriate women, gold diggers, and people who did not know their place. The timeline matched perfectly with when Connor and Haley had reconnected. On a whim, I decided to send her a message. Nothing dramatic, just a simple introduction and some information I thought she would find interesting. Mrs. Reed, I wrote. My name is Kevin Anderson. I believe your son Connor recently proposed to the woman I was engaged to, Haley Bennett. I thought you would be interested to know that Haley accepted his proposal while she was still engaged to me. I attached screenshots of our wedding planning emails and the text messages that might give her a glimpse into the kind of person her son was planning to marry. Sincerely, Kevin. I attached screenshots of Haley's texts to her friends about the wedding, including a few particularly unflattering ones where she had complained that Connor was clingy and desperate to prove himself during their college relationship. I also included a photo of our engagement announcement in the local paper, dated 6 months before Connor's proposal. I hit send before I could change my mind. The response came faster than I expected. Mr. Anderson, thank you for bringing this to my attention. I had no idea about MS. Bennett's engagement to you, and I can assure you my son was unaware as well. This is completely unacceptable behavior, and I will deal with it immediately. I apologize for any distress this situation may have caused you. Sincerely, Carolyn Reed. 25 minutes later, my phone rang. Unknown number. Kevin Anderson. Yes, this is Carolyn Reed. I hope you do not mind me calling, but I wanted to speak with you directly about this situation. Her voice was crisp, educated, with the kind of authority that comes from being used to people listening when you speak. Of course, Mrs. Reed. First of all, I want to apologize on behalf of my family. What a mess. Bennett did is absolutely inexcusable, and I am horrified that my son was involved in such deception. Connor did not know about your engagement. He claims he did not, and I believe him. My son has many flaws, but he is not generally deceitful about these things. MS. Bennett, however, seems to be quite adept at manipulation. I could hear the ice in her voice when she said Haley's name. I have done some research on MS. Bennett since receiving your message, she continued. Her family background, her work history, her social media presence. I must say, I am not impressed with what I found. Oh, her mother has quite a reputation in certain circles. Vivian Bennett is known for being difficult, pretentious, the kind of woman who thinks the rules do not apply to her or her family. This was getting interesting. I see. Mr. Anderson, may I ask what your intentions are regarding this situation? Are you hoping to reconcile with MS? Bennett. No, ma'am. That is ancient history. Good. Because I can tell you right now that any relationship between my son and that woman will absolutely not happen. Not if I have anything to say about it. I appreciate that, Mrs. Reed, but honestly, what Connor and Haley do now is really none of my business. Perhaps not, but I suspect MS. Bennett will not take rejection gracefully. Women like her rarely do. She was right about that. I have a proposal for you, Mr. Anderson. Would you agree to meet me for coffee? I think we could help each other. 2 hours later, I was sitting across from Carolyn Reed in an upscale downtown cafe, and I understood immediately why Haley had not mentioned Connor's mother when talking about her bright future with her ex-boyfriend. Carolyn Reed was everything Vivian Bennett pretended to be. Old money, not just the appearance of wealth, real connections, not just social climbing, and real power, the kind that came from generations of influence rather than aggressive networking. She was also absolutely furious. I spoke with my son after our conversation, she said, stirring her coffee with precise, controlled movements. He admitted that MS. Bennett had mentioned being involved with someone else, but he claimed she made it sound like it was casual, nothing serious. We were engaged for 6 months. We were planning a wedding. Yes, I gathered that from the documents you sent me. Quite an elaborate affair you were planning. We're planning, being the key phrase. She smiled, and it reminded me of Vivian's smile. Except this one seemed genuine rather than calculated. Mr. Anderson, I will be blunt with you. I do not like your MS. Bennett, I do not like her family. I do not like her background. And I especially do not like how she manipulated my son. But more than that, I do not like being taken for a fool. How so? Connor brought her to lunch last week, introduced her as his girlfriend, said he was talking about getting serious. He made a big deal about how happy he was, how he had finally found the one. I spent an entire meal listening to this woman talk about her future with my son, knowing the whole time she was lying straight to my face. I could see where this was going. You want revenge? I want justice. There is a difference. She leaned forward, and I could see where Connor got his intensity. MS. Bennett thinks she can play with people's lives, treat relationships like they are interchangeable, manipulate men into competing for her attention. She is about to learn that some games have consequences. What did you have in mind? Nothing illegal, nothing unethical. Just enlightening. You see, Mr. Anderson, I have something MS. Bennett desperately desires. My approval, my blessing for her relationship with my son, her acceptance into our family. She took out her phone and showed me a text from Haley. Mrs. Reed, I hope we can meet up soon. Connor has told me so much about you, and I cannot wait to get to know the woman who raised such an incredible man. When did she send that? This morning. Apparently, Connor told her about our conversation, and she is now in full damage control mode. I had to admire Haley's nerve, if nothing else. So what is the plan? Carolyn Reed's smile turned sharp. Oh, we are going to meet. And it is going to be very educational for everyone. Carolyn Reed did not just arrange a lunch with Haley, she orchestrated a masterpiece of social warfare. The venue was the Pine Ridge Country Club, the kind of place where old money went to see and be seen, where conversations were held in hushed tones, and where reputations were built and destroyed over lunch. She had invited me to watch from the bar, seated so I could see their table while remaining unnoticed. Think of it as research, she had said. You should see how the woman I was engaged to behaves when she thinks she is winning. I almost felt sorry for Haley. Almost. She arrived 15 minutes late, which in Carolyn's world was probably equivalent to showing up unprepared. Haley was wearing what I recognized as her Meet the Parents outfit. A classic dress, minimal jewelry, the kind of deceptively casual look that was meant to seem effortless but had probably taken an hour to put together. Carolyn, on the other hand, looked like she had stepped out of a magazine about powerful women. Everything about her radiated control, from her perfectly styled silver hair to her discreet but obviously expensive jewelry. I could not hear their conversation from where I was sitting, but I could read the body language. Haley was trying too hard, leaning forward, gesturing animatedly, flashing that bright, desperate smile she used when trying to charm someone. Carolyn was polite but distant, the kind of distance that suggested Haley was already failing a test she did not even know she was taking. Halfway through their entrees, Carolyn excused herself and walked over to the bar where I was sitting. How is it going? I asked. Oh, she is delightful, Carolyn said with the kind of sarcasm that could cut diamonds. She has spent the last 20 minutes telling me about her marketing career and her vision for her future with Connor. She also mentioned 3 times that she comes from a good family and her mother is very involved in the community. Sounds like Haley. She did not mention you once, not even to explain why she is suddenly available for my son. It is like you never existed. That stung more than I thought it would. The interesting part, Carolyn continued, is that she keeps checking her phone. She seems anxious about something. She is probably wondering if I am going to cause problems for her. Well, you are about to. She took out her phone and showed me a text she had drafted. Haley, I have invited someone to join us for dessert. I think you will find the conversation enlightening. You are not really going to. Oh yes, I am. She hit send. Consider it a public service. She walked back to the table, and I watched Haley's face as she read the message. Even from across the room, I saw her go pale. 10 minutes later, Carolyn motioned for me to come over. Haley, she said as I approached, I believe you know Kevin Anderson. Haley's face went through about 6 different expressions in the span of 2 seconds. Shock, fear, anger, embarrassment, and finally a desperate attempt to keep her composure. "Kevin, what are you doing here?" "Having lunch," I said, sitting in the chair Carolyn had pulled out for me. Carolyn invited me. "Carolyn, Mrs. Reed and I have been having the most interesting conversations about you," I said. "Comparing notes, you might say." Haley looked back and forth between us like she was watching a tennis match, but did not know the score. "I do not understand." "Of course you do not," Carolyn said smoothly. "You see, Haley, when my son told me about his new girlfriend, I was naturally curious. So when Mr. Anderson reached out to me with some concerns about your concurrent relationships, I felt it was important to get the whole story." "Concurrent relationships?" "Well, what would you call accepting my son's marriage proposal while you were still engaged to Mr. Anderson?" All the blood drained from Haley's face. She looked at me with something resembling panic. "Kevin, I can explain." "Oh, really?" "Because I would love to hear the explanation of how you forgot to mention to Connor that you were planning a wedding with someone else." I told him I was seeing someone." "Seeing someone?" Carolyn's voice could have frozen water. "Ms. Bennett, there is a very big difference between seeing someone and being engaged to be married." Haley was backpedaling hard now, looking for a way out that did not exist. "It was not. I mean, Kevin and I were having problems." "Problems?" I laughed, but there was nothing funny about it. "Haley, we were addressing wedding invitations the week before Connor proposed." "What problems?" "You were distant. You were not paying attention to me. I was working. You know, that thing people do to pay for weddings, to plan a future with me." Carolyn watched the exchange with the fascination of someone observing an interesting situation. "Ms. Bennett," she finally said, "I am curious about something. When exactly were you planning on telling my son about Mr. Anderson?" I was going to, because according to Mr. Anderson, you accepted Connor's proposal on a Tuesday night. Your wedding was scheduled for the following March. That is a rather tight schedule to juggle." Haley started to cry, which in the past would have made me want to comfort her. Now it just made me tired. "I made a mistake," she said through her tears. "I was lost. I did not know what I wanted." "Oh, yes, you did. You wanted to keep me as a backup plan while you explored your options with Connor. You wanted to have it both ways." That is exactly it, Haley. "You thought you could string us both along until you decided whose life you liked better." Carolyn signaled for the check. "Ms. Bennett, I think we are done here." "Mrs. Reed, please. I love Connor. I want to be with him." "I am sure you do. Unfortunately, I do not want you to be with him. You have shown me exactly what kind of person you are, and that is not the kind of person I want in my family." She stood up, and I followed suit. "Kevin," Haley said desperately, "please do not do this." "I am not doing anything, Haley. I just stopped cleaning up your messes." We left her sitting at the table, crying over her untouched dessert, while the other patrons pretended not to stare. In the parking lot, Carolyn turned to me. "That was enlightening," she said. "She will blame me." "Of course she will. People like Haley Bennett always blame others." "What about Connor?" "Connor will be disappointed, but he will get over it. He is young, and there are plenty of women in the world who know how to tell the truth." She got into her Mercedes, then rolled down the window. "Mr. Anderson." "Yes. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. And for what it is worth, I think Ms. Bennett is a fool." She drove off, leaving me alone in the parking lot with the satisfaction of knowing Haley's backup plan had just evaporated. My phone started ringing before I even reached my pickup truck. Haley, of course. I did not answer. The call started that afternoon and did not stop. Haley, then Vivian, then Madison, then Taylor, then Haley again. By evening, I had 17 missed calls and a voicemail box full of increasingly desperate messages. "Kevin, please call me back. We need to talk about what happened today." "Kevin, it is Vivian. What you did today was completely inappropriate. Call me immediately." "Kevin, it is Madison. I do not know what is going on, but Haley is hysterical. Please call her." "Kevin, you vindictive person. How could you do this to her?" The last one was from Taylor, and it made me smile. I was sitting on my back deck with a beer, watching the sunset and enjoying the first real peace I had felt in weeks, when I heard a car door slam in my driveway. Then another. Through my kitchen window, I could see them gathering like an army preparing for a siege. Haley, Vivian, Madison, Taylor, and, surprise, Connor Reed himself. He looked like he would rather be anywhere else, but there he was. The doorbell rang, followed by vigorous knocking on the door, followed by Vivian's voice. Kevin Anderson, open this door right now. I took another sip of beer and stayed where I was. We know you are in there, Haley yelled. Your truck is in the driveway. The knocking grew louder, more insistent. I could hear them talking among themselves, planning their strategy. Finally, the noise stopped, and I thought maybe they had given up. Then I heard footsteps on my deck. Haley came around the corner, looking like she had been crying for hours. Her makeup was smeared, her hair was a mess, and her eyes had the wild look of someone who had reached the end of her rope. You are here, she said. This is private property, Haley. It is my property too. I lived here for 2 years. Lived. Past tense. The others appeared behind her like a highly dysfunctional parade. Vivian looked furious. Madison looked uncomfortable. Taylor looked like she wanted to start an argument. And Connor looked like he wanted to disappear. We need to talk, Haley said. No, we do not. About what you did today? About that woman, Carolyn Reed. You had no right to drag her into this. I stood up, setting my beer on the deck railing. No right. Haley, you accepted her son's marriage proposal while you were engaged to me. You dragged him into this the moment you decided to play games with his family. I was not playing games. Then what would you call it? Connor stepped forward, and I got my first good look at Haley's great love. He was exactly what I had pictured from his social media presence. Expensive haircut, designer clothes, the kind of soft hands that had never done real manual labor. But he looked miserable, like someone who just realized he stepped in something he could not scrape off his shoe. Look, man, he said, I did not know you existed when I proposed. Haley told me she was seeing someone casually. Nothing serious. Casually? We were planning a wedding. I know that now. Because your mother seems to think you are still planning a future with Haley. He glanced at Haley, then at me. My mother and I had a long talk after lunch today. About a lot of things. And I think I might have been naive about this whole situation. Haley spun around to face him. Connor, you cannot be serious. Haley, you lied to me. You lied to my mother. How am I supposed to trust anything you say now? I did not lie. I did not tell you everything. You did not tell me anything. You let me believe you were free while you were engaged to someone else. Vivian stepped forward, clearly deciding things were getting out of hand. This is ridiculous. Haley made a mistake, but that does not mean. Mrs. Bennett, Connor said, his voice firmer now. With all due respect, your daughter lied to everyone involved in this situation. Including you, I assume. Vivian's mouth fell open. She clearly was not used to being interrupted. I beg your pardon. Did you know Haley was engaged when she started seeing me again? Of course I knew. But Kevin was being unreasonable about. Unreasonable about what? Expecting the woman he was engaged to be faithful? Planning a wedding with someone who was secretly planning a different future with someone else. I was starting to like Connor Reed. Haley looked back and forth between Connor and me, like she could not understand how her carefully constructed story was collapsing. This is insane, she said. I love you, Connor. I chose you. You chose me after you got caught, Connor replied. There is a difference. That is not true. Really? Because according to your text messages, you were still planning wedding details with Kevin the day after you accepted my proposal. Haley froze. What text messages? Connor took out his phone. The ones you sent your friend Paige about the wedding flowers. Dated 2 days ago. I watched Haley's face crumble as she realized just how thoroughly she had been exposed. Connor, I can explain. I am sure you can. You seem very good at explaining things. But I am done listening. He turned to me. Kevin, I owe you an apology. I should have checked the facts first. Apology accepted. And Haley, he continued, figure out what you really want instead of chasing everything. I want you, she cried. No, you want your idea of me. The life you imagine I offer. Not enough to be honest. Vivian was seething. This is outrageous. Haley is a wonderful woman. She is 34 years old, I replied. It is time to expect her to act like an adult. Taylor jumped to her defense. It was one mistake, Kevin. One. She lied for weeks. She accepted another marriage proposal while wearing my ring. She deceived everyone. Haley sobbed in despair. I love both of you. Connor shook his head. You love being loved. He walked away, wishing her well without animosity. The others deflated. A broken Haley whispered, "I really loved you. But you preferred better options." She left alone. I sent a text to Dylan. "I am still breathing. Finally free." A week later, Haley moved back in with her mother. Connor started dating someone else. Vivian's complaints fell flat. I kept my house, my business, and my self-respect, having learned that refusing poor treatment is the best revenge. Comment. Hey friends, I wanted to share a quick thought after this one. I really believe self-respect is the foundation of every healthy relationship. When we learn to set firm boundaries, we protect our own peace. It's not always easy, but choosing to walk away from what no longer serves us shows real strength. You deserve to be someone's first choice, not a backup plan. Taking responsibility for our healing helps us move forward with a lighter heart. I hope this story reminds you to be kind to yourself in tough moments. Choosing calm over constant drama can truly transform your life. Remember that you are worthy of genuine love and respect. Thanks for being here with me today. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.